it?
I'll say.
Yeah.
It's a bamboo you got behind you.
I think it probably is.
No.
Have a look at the top.
No.
No, not bamboo.
No, mate. Sorry. B grade stuff.
Yeah. They got a new shop in Brighton that I found, which they're selling bamboo toothbrushes.
Aha.
Yeah.
I've just started adding them to my website as well.
Yeah, I think the store in Brighton is a kind of ethical packaging store, and it's trying to make sure that people are buying the right stuff from the world. And yeah, the bamboo toothbrushes look like a pretty popular buy. I have to say, I've been really strongly considering opening a store in Brighton which sells that stuff and stuff without packaging. You know, cereals and nuts and all that kind of thing without packaging.
Oh, mate, if you really want to sit in a shop 10 hours a day, retail sucks, man.
Yeah, I know. I don't intend to run the store, just manage it. You know, effectively from afar, buy it, own it, and put something in. That was my idea.
Yeah. Let me have a yarn to you about all that.
Okay. All right.
It's a hard road.
All right. Well, that's
online is the game.
It'd be good to speak to you about it, because it's it's early doors for me, and I've been thinking about it, but I'm easily put off. So
yep.
I'm going to be careful, because
I'll do my best.
I don't want it to affect my trading, because this has to take the kind of front seat. But I was thinking I could maybe trade from there, and then yeah.
Okay. Let me talk to you about that.
All right.
All right, we are live on air, I think, and we haven't crashed yet.
Just a quick side point. Yeah. Forex Factory, when you open it, because I opened my Forex Factory in Explorer. The only thing I have open in this thing is Hangouts. That's it.
Okay.
So that might be an option.
Yeah, there's so many bloody programs I run that require Google Chrome only.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Totally confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Where's James up to with this, by the way?
I don't know. I mean, I'm here, so I will have the opportunity to speak to him, and I'm sure we will get around to it, but we haven't as yet. But I've got 2 weeks here, so I'm sure we will.
2 weeks?
Yeah, because we've got Hong Kong next week.
Wow, okay.
So I'll be here for the weekend coming up, and then the following weekend we go to Hong Kong.
Okay, happy days. How do you stand?
And then I'm home.
Okay, Forex Factory and my game. I don't think I'm game. Have you got a Forex Factory?
I do. Let me show you.
I think we'll do it that way.
Yep. Let's show my screen. Here you go. Let me know if you can see it.
I can.
Okay, so we're on Tuesday, the 14th of May, and straight away the big standout data release today is average earnings. I've changed my time to Singapore time, so it's going to be 4:30 actually. Just when the show finishes, we're going to get average earnings from the UK, 3 month over month. Very important metric for the potential for interest rates cuts or rises, because the economy and the workers need to be able to absorb any rise that happens. So this is an important metric that is used, and we'll see this and CPI being pretty close bedfellows when this is released. So that's the news of the day. We've had some numbers from Germany that actually not too bad. Germany final CPI in line with expectation, but this WPI, which I'm not completely aware of what it is. Okay, so the wholesalers, that could be a soft marker for some of the other goods sales indicators, PMIs and bits and pieces like that. So this better than expected. That I would have thought would have given the euro a slight kick. I'm not sure how much, but a slight kick probably. PPI from Switzerland, pretty negative. The FOMC member is speaking later. I don't know what that may well be about, but we do hear that there could be some interest rate cuts coming from the United States, and that actually could well help out the stock market, along with other bits and pieces that we'll talk about later on, which is why I'm back bullish the stock market, and we'll talk about the trade that we've got on from yesterday, and how that's going in a moment, and see what Williams says, and see if that does affect anything. See if he gives any kind of hint of dovish or hawkish stance, and how that could affect any trades in the stock market, and maybe how that could affect currencies. Average earnings obviously is going to be pound related. Unemployment rate is going to be quite important too, and claimant count is going to have a soft impact. So really, it's about the pound today. This is also quite an important number, the German ZEW economic sentiment as well. So that the euro might get a bit of a kick after we've come off air as well, one way or the other.
Yeah, the pound couldn't hang on. We were in a trade from last week in the pound. We traded the pound shorts, sorry, the pound long and euro pound short. We didn't get into the euro pound trade.
Oh yeah, let's have a look at that actually. Yeah, so euro pound short, and then we'll talk about this trade.
But I'm still waiting. Still waiting patiently.
Well, this is interesting, isn't it? I mean, it really does. It's starting to look at this stage. Let's just draw these levels in and see what we got. Now, I think this significant time frame here could be the weekly, but it may well end up being the daily. We haven't yet broken through this point. We know there's resistance here because this bar really does kind of illustrate it, and coming down to some of the other time frames, it does show us that there's some resistance here. But popping through that level, that may well give us a fairly bullish close on this one, which means that we're probably switching direction. I don't know if you agree with that, mate, but that's
no, I do.
You do, yeah. So that's the way I'm looking at this, is that there may well be a switch of direction. But I tell you what I'd really like to see is this happen on the weekly, because as yet we don't really have, the weekly's proved to be a pretty solid chart recently with this this particular currency pair. The trend is still to the downside, but this really could start to change things up a little bit and start to bring this back into life, and possibly even move it to more significant levels, which is why I think this weekly is really important. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think we should be looking at trades before that, but it does mean that if this does end up going long for the next 4 days or 3 days, 3.5 days, let's say, then it would suggest to me that any retracements into next week could actually start this in a genuine movement to the upside. So I think this weekly chart is quite pivotal here, mate. This weekly bar is quite pivotal here, but it would have to clear through these levels, and I'd want it to clear, but maybe even closing at this high up here by the end of the week, but somewhere between these two levels. So somewhere between 0.871, well, let's call it 872, and 0.868. I would say that, somewhere between that level, if the weekly chart closed up there, then I think that we should be looking at longs.
Yeah, look, let's compare what I've got, and I'll show you why I think what I think, and not too far off the track that you've just described. We have, and I've been waiting for the top of this level, which is 86.75-ish as I've got it. And that's pretty much where price is, obviously. And that level, as you pointed out, is quite substantial. Now, this is the line in the sand. And if we do break above here, then I absolutely agree. I think the shorts are off the table for the probably medium term, I would have thought. Because if we do break higher here, we've cleared all this noise down here, and well, I suppose there's another level in here somewhere. In fact, there is another level in here somewhere, but it's not till 87.80. So there's 100 pips in that, really. If this does break out, it's probably headed in that direction. That said, I'm still of the contrarian opinion, and that will change only when this does break out and close above this range. At this point in time, that hasn't happened. And on the 4-hour chart, I've got everything I need for about let's say half of the trade that I'm looking for. So the trade I'm looking for is price to get back underneath this broken trend line, then retest it from below, and it's at that point that I'll start trading this short.
Yeah, that would be a good trade actually, wouldn't it? I like that. I like that a lot.
We were kind of waiting for this scenario last week. Let me go a little bit wider. We were waiting for either that trade line there or this trend line here to produce exactly that. So false break back into here down, false break back into here down. And as I say, this is, and as you say, this is pretty much the line in the sand. And if we break up here and get clear of this level, then all shorts are off. Doesn't owe me anything euro pound, but I'd like to continue getting some money out of it, that's for sure. So it's just a matter of wait and see, and until we know or get the signal that, okay, we are breaking high, or no, we're not ready yet, then I'm willing to wait on that. Pound, as I said yesterday, was not kind to us. We had gone back into profit after spending much of Friday and Monday out of profit. And I must say there was a strong signal here to get out of this trade, but it happened after midnight my time, and that, of course, is sleep time for me. And I'll show you, if you want to know for future reference, how I would have handled this being in front of the, well, it's easy to say after the event, but this is how I should have handled this had I been in front of the charts. So we got back into profit here. Our entry was just above the monthly pivot. But as soon as we did, we hit the top of this range, I call them. But it's not only a range, it's a channel. And we then got a reversal bar coming back below the monthly pivot. The wise thing to do at that point would have been one of two things. That would have been move your stop loss underneath that bar, or move your stop loss underneath the nearest swing. And that probably was the best way to go. Well, the best way to go was obviously just close the trade, but that's, again, water under the bridge that I can't bring back, and I certainly would consider that on most occasions. Once you get a reversal bar after you've got back to profit, it's really telling you that, okay, you've lived through a death by 1,000 cuts, and if you can cut your losses there, that's probably a good idea, especially if you're coming off a resistance area. It just makes perfect sense. The other thing to consider, of course, with that is that there was a bear flag forming at the time, and probably getting a little bit long in the tooth, but it certainly looked, and now does, of course, looked as though that was a pretty smooth move. And I think that was instigated by the trade wars to and fro that's been going on. Certainly, the dollar improved across all the major currencies very, very quickly, and that's part of it right there. Now, what do we do? Well, we're back at the bottom here, really, are we not? At a confluence area of trend line, and pretty clear trend line, and bottom of this channel. Throw in the horizontal level. That has been a lot of support in the past, not so much resistance, but a lot of support in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a bounce here. Can I trade it, is the question. Well, always I can, if everything else is right. I can totally see the level. I can totally see an untested daily pivot here, and I can see a bounce back to the top of this channel. Trading it, of course, without being a scalper is an entirely different kettle of fish. But what we do have here is a double bottom, and we're looking at a potential higher low here. So if I do get the higher low and a reversal bar, or if I get some interaction off this little intraday trade line, then there's no problem with me trading that. In particular, if I find an entry down here somewhere, we've got a decent amount of room, I think, to take profit before the high of the day. We've just got enough if we would enter the market here. That said, you're guessing here, and at the end of the day, you're probably trying to catch a falling knife as well, unless you've got a system that allows you to trade this. We do have a system that allows us to trade it, and we just have to wait for that to manifest. If it does, happy days. If it doesn't, and this continues to go south, then really it's not the end of the world. We're just on the sidelines a little bit longer than we might have anticipated. So that's me on euro pound and the pound, mate. The euro is also very interesting because we're coming off again the bottom of this channel. We saw this last Monday, so a week ago. Julie and I were talking about this higher low here after the. It's kind of a tweezer bottom. I don't like the look of it, to be fair, as a reversal pattern, but it's kind of there. So is the higher low. I actually wanted to wait for a better high. Well, when I say a better higher low that was in a better position. I think entering the market here for me straight into the monthly pivot is not a grand idea when you've got a big wrist candle. You know, I don't see that as a viable entry for me. I would, however, now that the monthly pivot's been broken, the weekly pivot's come up to it, the daily pivot's there as well, all of them have been broken. If we were to come back now and produce a higher low, I think I'd be happy to trade this up to around about the 113.20 area, in that vicinity anyway at these highs. So that's kind of where I'm at on the euro. That doesn't paint a great picture, I suppose, for euro pound short at the moment. But if we do hit this resistance level, then shoot back under the euro pound resistance, then maybe we will see. So the picture's kind of clear what I need to do, mate. But
what do you think of the? What do you think of about the trend line between?
Coming up here.
I just want to double check something. Let me just see where you got it. I'm just double checking. Okay. The trend line. This trend line here. I'm not sure you got my screen, but let me see. Yes, that one. Yeah. Yeah,
totally get it. Totally see it.
I find that quite an interesting level because if you were looking at that particular chart there, so if you're looking at that particular level, the fact that it's above the weekly pivot, the fact that it's above the trend line, price alone tells you that there is a long in that particular area. But when you look at that shooting star, I mean, it doesn't fill you with too much confidence that that the long is going to result in much. But what's interesting, I mean, I'm doing a candlestick course tomorrow, and this is why they're probably a bit more in focus right now. But what's interesting about this is because other parameters have kind of now been broken. Effectively, we've broken to the upside. We've broken out of a level and we've broken to the upside horizontal level. There's is that monthly? There's a monthly pivot there as well.
Yep, there's a monthly.
So monthly, we're above the monthly pivot, above the weekly pivot. So it's a classic example of where the candle would not have enough confluence to trade it, and you know, the only way that this could be traded is certainly a hint. But anybody that would be entering a market off the back of a candle like that would be pretty much dancing with fire there, because what we want to look for there, in a way, I would have thought, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, would be a potential slingshot entry where it comes back, price comes back under the trend line, retest the pivots from below, and then there would be the trade, because definitely. You know the bar has given us a hint that could happen, but with this one we'd need to see it unfold. We wouldn't just take the entry, and this is where with trading we need to make sure that we establish that you know, the information needs to be well collated, and these bars really just give you a hint that something could happen. It doesn't necessarily give you an entry point every single time.
Yeah, I pretty much said exactly that this morning in this morning show. The thing that goes with that, I suppose, is that we are in a downtrend. You know,
yes,
there's no question. And
yeah, even though looking at that chart, but does the, you know, the bar 2 back, does that put that downtrend in question?
Because it's broken the immediate trend or the
Yeah.
short-term trend. Yeah, definitely it does.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree with that. But you know, if you're a trend trader, you're probably looking at that and you're looking at it pretty seriously, I would have thought. I said there's no way I could trade it for a couple of reasons. The main reason is that we've got these pivots dead ahead, so that would preclude me from taking that position in the first place. But I think, you know, there's potential for downside here. How far, how long it takes, good question. I'd love to see it come down here and not break the trade line or the trend line. If that were the case, then we can look for a long here. If it doesn't pierce back below here, if we get a nice 4-hour close on the trend line below the pivots, I think there is a trade to be had here. So I'll be looking for that. I know that sounds like a little bit counterintuitive, but it'd be coming below the trend line, below the pivots, but not the trend line. The thing that's really in play here, majorly, is the trend line. And now that it's broken, if it doesn't re-break, then the obvious conclusion to that I get is we're going to here. And that's the way I look to play it. So, you know, still nothing's changed. My analysis says come back, retest the trade line or trend line, give me a higher low, away we go.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not a fait accompli because I can totally see the trend is short and we do have a reversal bar.
Yeah, I see all that, mate. I see all that. I think the euro is something that needs to develop. That's the way that I'm viewing it.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
It's not jumping yet.
So, do you want me to quickly talk about the FTSE, or have you still got bits and pieces you want to get to?
Look, we can talk about Aussie, Kiwi, and Aussie after you, I think. Let's mix it up a bit and go back to the FTSE for a while.
Okay, well, let's talk about the FTSE because we just opened. Now, we took a trade yesterday in the FTSE, and you can see that, you know, now what I said that I was going to do was trade at this level, and if the market came down, I was going to hit it again, and that's exactly what I did. Now, the reason I was going to hit it again was because of this level down here. So you can see that it's come right to the trend line. I was probably a shade early. I think I was, I don't know, what's that trend line there? Maybe 20 pips a bit early on that one. But it was difficult because I was looking at this coming down and seeing a little bit of strength. So I got in. But that's the way we're at. So what we've got right now is an aggregated trade in profit, which is great. And I would, I suppose more often than not, if I was concerned about the movement to the downside, I'd be closing this because it did break down and it didn't hold my original level. So I'd be quite happy to close this now and just take the aggregated profit rather than looking for something more substantial. But the reason I'm not doing that is because we do have slightly different attitude in the market today. Now, obviously, we've opened a little bit negatively. Now, I have to say, I am expecting this to draw back to here, and in some respects, you know, maybe the sensible thing to do would be to close this trade off and then see if it comes back. Because what I'd like to do is add a new trade on at this point, because now we're starting to move to the upside. I think we've got a greater chance of getting up there. My problem with taking trades off the table is you just don't know if they're going to keep going. So what I prefer to do is see if it will come back down to this point. Maybe put a stop in at the break-even level, but add to this point anyway. So I am looking for a retracement down to the pivot, and if it comes back to the pivot, which is around about 20 pips away, then I'll take another long at that point. If it breaks through, I probably won't do that because it hasn't retested the first breakout point, and because we've got a decent bar here, then I am looking for traders to come back into play. And it might not be quite below the pivot, but that's the area that I'll be aiming for is slightly below the pivot or on the pivot, very very bare minimum. So I'm looking for around about 20 pips back down, and then I'm going to add here. And my overall target is the weekly pivot. Now, the reason that the weekly pivot looks to me like an area that there's pretty much open water is because there's no other pivots. And now we've broken through this level here, which you know, it was having some significance on the way down. So I'll be looking at that to have some significance on the way up. This level is obviously quite important, but you know, that's really the first entry. So I won't be taking anything off there. I'll just look for a retracement and see if we can get through and get up to the weekly pivot. The only other possible place would be the gap. You know, it's only maybe 10 pips below the target. So it's possible that if the market looks a little bit weaker up there, or if I get to add, then I might just come back a little bit on all the three trades and just aim for the gap instead. But the weekly pivot looks like a pretty obvious place. It's so far untested this week, and it also exists in an area of definite resistance. So I am actually looking for a little higher on the FTSE, but I don't see it being a sensible trading decision to trade into this zone and beyond. I think I'd prefer to see it break and then make a decision on the retest, depending on whether it's come to the very last point that I'd be looking for the long to come back on, because there are some other lines up here. We look at this on a slightly different time frame on the daily. Then I've been talking about this potentially forming a head and shoulders pattern. Head and shoulders pattern would probably see our right shoulder somewhere around here. There's also an area of confluence on the horizontal level, but aside from a fib, which actually there's no area of confluence there. But you can see, look at the fib, 38% retracement. So in actual fact, except for this fib, the 38% retracement, it looks like a really good area to take profit. And it's possible that that's where the shorts start getting initiated from my perspective anyway. But I would really like to get it up here. You know, I'd like to see the market get to this point, drift around, grind its way up, and then see what's going to happen. The other thing about it is this trend line here. So if we bring these fibs back into play and draw the other levels in again, then it would suggest, if it's going to get up here, that could be into next week. So sometime next week we could be looking at the shorts. Seems to be a lot up here in agreement, and it looks like around about 72.80. So that's the idea, mate. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'll be looking at doing. I probably won't come out before at least the gap, as I say. I'll probably either add if it comes back to the pivot, or just let the market you know, continue moving if it's continuing to move. This bar here is a belt hold, which is a significant bar in many respects. You have to be careful with a belt hold, because the belt hold is a bullish bar. It is a reversal bar. It's also an outside bar, which is also incredibly bullish. It's engulfed this bar here too. So there's a lot to like about the upside here. Now, obviously, it's only relevant for the next 4 hours, but there's a lot to like about the chance of this holding at least at the pivot and moving forward. Have to be aware that there was also a belt hold here, which did move the market forward, but then ultimately failed. So it's got no trend changing qualities. It's just a potential area to get in. So yeah, that's the thinking on the FTSE, mate. Still, you know, I'm in the long aggregates. We've got profit, but not going to worry about the aggregate profit right now because it's very minor. I just want to see if I can add another one if it comes back, and see if I can get it up to here. If not, then I'm just going to stay in and see if I can get my my target price.
Mate, just a thought process, and it's a thought bubble that I alluded to actually earlier with the pound US dollar trade that I could have protected had I been in front of the charts last night. And my way to protect that would have been to put, as I said, move my stop up to below the reversal bar, or move my stop below the swing, and thereby protecting my my capital.
Yeah.
I just heard you say that you attempted to close it and then wait for another scale in.
Yeah.
Is it not an option to go to a smaller time frame and trail that stop? Now you're in profit on the swings on a smaller time frame with that thought process in mind, and then get back into it if it does reverse.
Yes, it is, mate. Yes, it is. I think if I was, I mean, certainly with the with a 15-minute chart, yeah, I mean, if it was going to break down, it would probably break down below the pivot, and it wouldn't look such an attractive proposition to scale in anyway. My slight issue with that is that it's not gonna have the chance to really grab a decent run to the upside, and it starts to reduce the profit line so much that I don't know whether that on the whole would be a profitable strategy. So I don't like messing around with it. I like the smaller term timeframes for entries, but I don't really like messing around with them for exits that much. But I do hear what you're saying, and yes, it would be an option, and it is an option. I suppose one of the reasons that I'm not that keen to get out of this so far today is because Donald Trump he's come out and he said that there is a great chance that they're going to be doing a deal with China. I think that there's been enough of a push to the downside in the FTSE to maybe just calm traders down a little bit, and if there was, if there is any hint that things could be clearing, that they may well, just start to buy into it and not worry about any retracements. And that's my slight issue. But yeah, you certainly could put a stop there. But you know what? If I put a stop there, then the aggregate would actually diminish. The only way I could aggregate this to be profitable is if I close here, and that is kind of picking the high, which is not really what I like to do.
I thought you were through the profit aggregate profit.
No, not on both. So the aggregate profit is around about here. No, about there. That's break even. But if I put a stop at that particular point on both these, then it hasn't really got any room to test any lows. So but you're absolutely right. And actually, if now I understand what you're trying to tell me, then yes, I probably would do that if this had gone through. If this goes through this level, then I can probably do that. On the next dip, I can probably aggregate the both of them to both be closing in profit if it goes, and I can make it a little bit safer. Because I do like what you're saying. I have to say I hadn't really considered doing that, and now you say it, I think that would be a sensible option. So just to kind of explain to everybody what Jeff's advising, which I agree with, is to see if this can go through a little bit higher. So the aggregated profit means that if I put a stop in place, then both trades would close. I presume that's what you mean, that they both close down. But as long as they have closed, as long as the price is above where this one doesn't, the loss on this one doesn't outdo the gain on this one. So right. That does mean sort of getting through this level, which means I could probably put a stop on both of them up here, which means this one would probably make money, but this one would be very, the profit on that would be very, very slight. Yeah, I mean, that is certainly an option. I just wonder what we're going to get for the rest of the week as well. I mean, do you know the other aspect of this, which makes me really keen to try and stay in, is when I look at this on a weekly chart, even though we've had this rush to the downside, the weekly chart is still in an uptrend. And the structure of this particular trend is here. We're right on top of the structure down here. Which actually, when I look at this, it makes my my second entry actually not a very good one. But the structure of the trend is down here, and the trend is still to the upside. So there's every chance that that people are that the longer term investors, the swing traders, if you like, are looking at this for further upside and further boost. Now I'm not going to hold on to this point because there's a lot of resistance in the way. But if it does start to break back to the upside on the shorter term timeframes, i.e. the daily, which means taking out this one to the high, then we can start looking for a short term time frame move to the upside, and that longer term still being in agreement to the upside. So so that's the other reason that I'm quite keen to stay in if I can, because I do have the swing trade effectively on my side. I have the longer term trade on my side here. Which is what I look for, so I want to try and avoid making decisions. That's always my port of call these days. It wouldn't have been before. I'd have been much more affected by the small term moves in it. But the way that this particular trade is being approached is from a longer term perspective with a short term entry, if you like.
Yep, cool. No, totally get it. Actually, we spoke about that last week, didn't we? How if you've got a plan in mind, then that plan needs to be stuck to. And,
I think so. Yeah, I think so, because it's it's incredibly frustrating when you do have a plan. Like, let's say you got a take profit area, and you allow your take profit area to get close and then close the trade. At that point, it comes back a little bit, making you think you took profit in the right point, and then it turns around again and just smashes right through your take profit area. It's really frustrating, and I think, you know, from my perspective, it's part of trading which I'm much better at, and it's made a huge difference to my top line. But I'm still not 100% proficient at that, and you know, I've got to move closer and closer to that particular vantage point, and that does mean that I've just got to set my orders in and just ignore the rest of what's going on.
Cool. In particular, what I say.
No, mate. No,
annoy you. No, I'm only kidding.
You know, everything that you say, and we were talking about this last night, actually, the people that have made a difference to your trading, and absolutely everything that you say, I take with the you know, professional outlook that it deserves, and it's always valid, and always worth having that second opinion, and it will occasionally you know, make me think about the market. It make me do something different about the market. It always makes me think about the market slightly differently, but it might actually make me take action slightly differently as well.
I think that's the thing, you know, if it opens your mind to what the market can do, you know, how you can deal with it in different ways. And that can only come through experience. You know, you can't buy that. You just have to sit in front of the charts for long enough and make the mistakes and learn from those and just move on to your next, I guess, period of being a trader, or your next the word's not coming to me, but the next phase in your maturity as a trader. And as I say, you can't buy that. You have to experience that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's probably going to be a resistance point here, and maybe you know, with what you're saying, that if there's a shallow bounce, I might change things, because actually we've just gone through the second point of profit. So actually we've got a 100% profitable trade now.
Cool.
So things are pretty good, and I have to say, what's likely to happen here? Well, let's not say likely, but what could happen here is that this market buys into that data release, which is the average earnings, and then we start to see this turn around a little bit. So I think I've got at least the next 12 minutes before I see too much of a retracement in this. But this gap here, you know, that vacuum could just suck this right up here, and we might get an incredibly bullish day today, just because we've had such a huge move to the downside, and this bar does look a little bit exhaustive. But let's see. Anyway, mate.
Yeah, I want to have a look at the Aussie and the Aussie Kiwi. Let's do that.
Yes. No, I'd like to look at that as well. I mean, not necessarily the Aussie Kiwi, but I'd like to look at the Aussie, because the Aussie should be having a similar movement, if you like, to the FTSE, because if we consider the stock market to be you know, a risk on environment, you know, it's going to go move to the upside in a risk on environment, then the Aussie also would be a currency that would move in the same kind of or a similar direction to the stock market a high percentage of the time. And we've now had, I don't know where we are actually with this. Let's just have a quick look where this is. It's not a great area there. There's a little looks like a little kind of almost down slanting, almost bear flag, which would suggest that this would be a point of support anyway. You know, there's a level down here which would be supported. We just had a higher low on the hourly, and certainly if you were looking at this on a shorter term time frame, I think anybody that managed to get in down here would probably be taking some of their profit now, because we've got this trend line to get through. I think for this to really move forward and move higher, then it's got to get through these highs on the hourly, which would also get it through the trend line, and then we might actually start to see a decent move with the Aussie. But I quite like the fact that we seem to be having this risk on day to day. So I don't know how that relates to the Aussie Kiwi. So I'm interested to hear your opinion on that. So let's have a quick look.
Yeah, look, that shouldn't really, pardon me, have too much effect on Aussie Kiwi, in my humble opinion. But the thing that should have an effect on, and I keep saying it, and I'm going to say it until I'm, I don't know, blue in the face, I suppose. The number one thing that should be moving Aussie Kiwi right now, and isn't, I've got to stress that it isn't, is the interest rate of last week. You know, one day we had an interest rate non-cut from the Aussie, which should have been, I won't say bullish, but it certainly should have helped. Well, it should have been bullish. Of course it should for the Aussie. And the very next day, we had a Kiwi interest rate cut, which should have been bearish for the Kiwi. Now, versus the dollar anyway, if we have a look at the Kiwi versus the dollar last week, there's the interest rate announcement. It's gone. You know, that interest rate announcement cut, for whatever reason, now no longer exists in accordance to the market. The market's saying, oh, well, we don't care. And my question is why? It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah.
And then I look at the Aussie, and same time frame. Here's last week's no interest rate cut, this candle here, and we haven't had any upside since. You know, it's all down. The path is down. Now, that's probably got a bit to do with elections. We've got elections in 4 days' time, and the Labor government is tipped to win that election, although it is much closer than I think most people would anticipate, going by the commentary. But that's probably got an effect. The differential in interest rates that existed over a year ago between Aussie and Kiwi, going back to, let's go back to there. I can't remember exactly when, but Aussie Kiwi's been on a down path ever since, basically, until the last, what, 4 of the last 7 weeks have been extremely bullish. We got the retracement. Now we had those interest rate differentials, and the only thing I can see here is downside from a technical point of view. It doesn't make sense to me. And again, I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face, maybe trying to convince myself that there has to be a long here at some stage. There has to be there has to be. When we're not sure.
You haven't got that. You haven't got that hammer on your chart, have you?
On what time frame, mate?
On the daily.
Aussie Kiwi?
Yeah.
The hammer from when?
So I have got a hammer on the 6th.
The 6th, which is, that's the 7th. That makes that the 6th.
Yeah, that one.
That's a hammer on the daily.
Yeah, which is weird because you haven't got it, and I'll show you it because it's whether it's valid I don't know, but I've got 2, which I think might be almost.
Oh, we had a look at that, didn't we? That's
we did. We got this one here, and I've got this one here.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is odd, isn't it? I mean, the one thing I would say, because I was going to say, would you maybe anticipate that we could be starting to get some support here because we got the low of the body of the hammer, but I suppose it doesn't really matter. It would matter for the confusion to think that is where there is a bullish bar, but this is a fairly strong level of support here, isn't it? Pretty strong horizontal level. So I don't know what that looks like with some details. Let me just bring that in. Yeah, I mean, there's that weekly pivot there as well. I think a long around the weekly pivot looks like a pretty good move to me.
Wow, your chart is just got no resemblance to mine.
Oh, so
What broker are you using for that chart? Not IFS.
no, Axie.
Axie, okay. It bears no resemblance. So what's the daily close on Axie? Maybe that's got a lot to do with it.
Which with the what on the hammer?
On any candle.
The daily. Oh, I see the timing. You mean?
Yeah, the daily open and close.
So it closes.
Well, it'll go 0-0, won't it?
8 o'clock UK, 8 p.m. UK. Is that right? No, 10 o'clock. Sorry, 10 p.m. UK.
10 p.m. UK, which is 7 a.m. here, which is right.
Oh, it's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why.
It, then.
Not sure. Not sure if there's a. Oh no, I've got the other pivots here. Yeah, it's under those two. Certainly looks like it's going to get drawn down to that weekly pivot down there to me, but that's got to be an area that the longs.
Let me have a look at the properties on the weekly pivot. And label 3, Monday pivot use Friday plus Sunday data. Have you got that?
Sorry, did I say that again? Sorry.
Are you on Sunday data?
On the weekly pivot. Is your weekly pivot not in the same place as mine?
Nowhere near it.
Oh, really?
Mine's above price, yours is below, which is kind of weird.
That is strange.
So what's the property? If you go into inputs on the weekly pivot, are you on option 2? Yes, you are.
Pivot properties. Doesn't tell me actually.
Yeah, it did. On inputs, I can see. Yep. Sunday data, number 2, which is this one.
Okay.
So if that was different, then I could understand it, but it's not different.
Yeah.
You can change that, which will change.
Do you know what, actually? What's interesting is this bar, and this probably doesn't happen very regularly, but because of this bar, then it would take the low plus the high plus the close divided by 3, and that's why it's down there, isn't it? So the question is this bar accurate?
It's because of those bars, right? Okay,
yeah.
That's the difference. Yeah. Yeah, what the heck's going on there?
Yeah. Kind
of makes a difference. Right? Makes a massive difference to analysis. Jeez.
Oh, it's huge, mate. Yeah, absolutely huge. Yeah, I don't know how you could do that. I mean, I've got one other program which is pretty accurate, which I could see if this bar exists on, but and I will look at it if anybody wants to trade it, but it'll take me a little while to get into it. But you know, it does make a huge difference. It just suggests that this would be one of these is going to be difficult to trust. I mean, the good thing is that there's some support here anyway.
Yeah, the level of I've got around about 105.42-ish, something like that.
Yeah, but the bad thing is, let me just have a look at yours. The bad thing is those pivots. You're on IFS, aren't you?
Yep.
Is anybody out there trading on any other broker? And if you are, have you got the same as me, or have you got the same as Jeff? I would suspect everybody's probably trading on IFS, but yeah. If you got any other broker, let me know.
I have, but I can't get to it at the moment, unfortunately. I've got another account with AVA.
Right.
But I can't access it right now. But I'll have a look at that overnight.
Yeah, difficult to make a choice on that, isn't it?
Yeah, it really, as you say, fortunately, there's a horizontal level there anyway, but
yeah.
That is just weird.
Yeah, I presume the other pivots are okay.
Where have you got your monthly?
Monthly is currently sitting at 105, 1.057-ish.
Yeah, that's right.
And the daily is currently at 1.05812.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is that next month, the monthly is going to be wrong.
Because of those candles, yeah.
Mm.
I'm at a loss to explain it.
I wonder whether because it's maybe a currency that isn't traded so much. Let me just see what the Aussie looks like against the dollar. Okay, nothing unusual there, and I'll just check the Kiwi dollar. Yeah, see the Kiwi dollar. I've also got on the 8th. I've got a huge hammer as well. I don't know if you got that.
No.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do on the 8th.
Yeah, actually I'm on the 4-hour bar. So let me go to the daily, and I do. Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we got the same. No. Oh, sorry. That was a
different
4 hour.
shape.
Yeah. So okay. So that one's okay. Weird, mate. Yeah. Really strange.
Okay. So nothing's changed my belief, but my analysis is completely different. My technical analysis says that this is in a down move, and I'm looking for a lower high. And yeah, it's just, I can't believe it. But I've been wrong before. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Well, do you know,
I'm
it's one of
prepared
those
to be
ones
wrong,
that,
but I need to be proven wrong, and I'm
if
not
it's not
proven
shaping
wrong
up,
yet.
you're
When
not.
am I proven wrong? Is
You
the
won't
big
take the
question,
trade
I
if it's
suppose.
not shaping up anyway.
And
But,
that would be when the exact level we're talking about, when that goes, which
yeah.
is around about 105.42-ish, I think. If that goes, then big problems. Well, not big problems. It's just I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I believe I'm wrong. Well, the other way to look at that, of course, is that will provide that level, if we get there, an awesome place to look for a bounce. So that's kind of in my mind as well. So is the monthly pivot. If we get back above the monthly pivot, that's also in my thought process. So yeah, look, I'm bemused, but I'm not concerned, because at the end of the day, I'm getting a bloody good price if this keeps falling, and I'm right. So that's kind of where I'm focused.
Yeah.
What else haven't we spoken about? We've spoken about cable. Oh, yen pairs today. You were speaking earlier, Ash, about this being a risk on day, and it certainly appears that way if you look at everything against the yen, that everything's going in reverse mode against the yen today, whereas yesterday everything was crashing and tumbling to the ground.
Yeah.
They seem to have picked themselves up today, and it does appear to be a risk on day. I'd have to agree with that. For that reason, yeah, you got to be thinking, I suppose, looking for Aussie long, untested daily pivot, higher low after a double bottom. It's not a great higher low, but it's there. So let me have a look at that.
Is this Aussie yen?
Risky.
Mate, is that the Aussie yen you're looking at?
Yeah, there's just no space there. A bit annoying. I'm looking at a nice double bottom, a nice higher low. But trading here, my rules include don't trade into the high of the day, and don't trade into an untested daily pivot unless I've got profit in the bank. No, I'm not hearing you speak, Ash. That's
Okay.
very true.
I
wonder why.
don't. Jeff's not hearing me. So
I can see your screen. This happened last time as well.
Yeah.
Man, that's so frustrating. And I can't log out because I'm in the controller seat. Bugger. Mate, I'll have a fiddle and you have a chat, and I'll see if I can fix it.
Okay, all right, let's do that. So Jeff was just talking about the Aussie yen. I'm interested because I don't know. I think that's his chart there. Is it the Aussie yen he's got there, or Aussie dollar? That might be the Aussie dollar. Yes, it's the Aussie dollar. So we'll have a look at the Aussie dollar together. Take my screen here. Let's just make sure that I'm on. Yeah, we should be okay. Sorry, this is a bit scruffy because I've only got my laptop, so I've only got one screen, so I'm having to I'm having to trade off this screen and run the show, which is not the easiest thing to do. So he's looking at the Aussie dollar, and he's got a he's looking at this this untested daily pivot. Aussie dollar certainly has put in a higher low off this off the hourly, and you know the thing was that I think we said this. It was going to be the case that people would probably start looking at taking profit. The short-term traders, anybody that you know has managed to squeeze a little bit out of this, it was fairly evident that they probably start taking profit there, and it doesn't look like anybody's got any confidence to stay in with this one. So because it's a downtrend overall, you know, the 4 hourly is still moving to the downside. Yes, we've got an untested daily pivot. It's just a dangerous trade. You know, it's not to say that it's not a buy, but the buy looks like a dangerous trade. We've got a risk on day. News and sentiment is fairly good today, and probably a little bit of relief in the market is the highest suggestion that I would assume here. So that would suggest to me that we'd be a bit more comfortable looking for the long. But the longer term timeframes are to the downside. So this would be a no-go for me. I wouldn't really want to trade it. Really what we're after is things being in alignment. And, you know, just going back to the FTSE. The FTSE's in alignment because of the longer term timeframes. But when we look at this, even the longer term timeframes are down. So I suspect it would be better on this one to check to see if the sentiment can actually lead us back a little bit higher, just so the shorts start to step back in again. Weekly pivot, you know, could be a target and an area that we could look to try and get in short. Might be along that trend line. It might be along this particular pattern here. And let's just make sure that this pattern is in play. Yeah, that looks like a pretty good pattern, doesn't it? I thought it might be a falling wedge, but actually it's a channel to the downside. So could it get to the top of that channel? Maybe. And it's possible that, you know, there would be some people picking it up down here. No doubt about it. And traders will be trying to look into this area. But yeah, I don't know enough about the Aussie to counter trend trade this anyway. But I think even if I did, I wouldn't be that keen to do that. I'd probably just see if I could enjoy a move to the upside, to watch a move to the upside that could lead to some further downside and maybe bash its head below that one more time. And if it starts to break this particular pattern, then we start to look for the long. You know, on the retracements, we start to look for the long. So that's the way that I would treat the Aussie dollar. Now with the Aussie yen, obviously, if you're scalping, you may well have a different view on that, but that wouldn't be my preference. The Aussie yen is maybe similar-ish, but it is actually above the daily pivot. So if we're thinking of the yen as our safe haven currency, safe havens appear to be a little bit lighter today. People don't seem to be, you know, as concerned with the market today as they were yesterday. Again, this trend line looks to me like an obvious point of release. So 76.64 would be a potential take profit area, maybe a little bit higher, but somewhere around about that trend line would be depends on when it got there. Yeah, maybe 73.60 would be the target there. I think the fact that we're above the daily pivot helps, but it's not an ideal point to take a trade in some respects. We've got this incredibly bullish bar, really nice breakout, but no real retest of this area. If it happened before the US market opened up, then maybe we could start, you know, wondering whether it could start getting up to this point. But it's not preferential. All right, so Jeff can't get back in. But you know, that's the way that I'm looking at it. So we got to think about the risk on, risk off currencies. We are risk on today, so we're probably looking at the Aussie long. We're probably looking at the yen shorts intraday. This is not on a longer term time frame, and we're probably looking at gold short as well after a huge run to the upside. Maybe gold pulling back into this pivot here. Now, it's worth mentioning just because, you know, you may be a counter trend trader and might be quite happy to trade this back to areas, or you might be somebody that's looking for the longer term move back to the upside in gold. You know, seeing the yen strengthen again, you might be looking at all those aspects, and that would suggest that you may well have the price that you want. The last one I'm going to quickly check is the euro dollar yen. Now, this could be interesting, the dollar yen, because we don't know what the Fed member is about to say, but it could be fairly bearish for the dollar in the end. And now we're seeing the dollar strengthen here, and it certainly looks like the dollar yen is the best currency pair to be trading at the minute. If we're thinking of a little bit of risk on, because the yen is weakening, but it's not weakening significantly against the Aussie. It's certainly weakening fairly significantly here against the dollar. So it looks like the dollar has got a great chance to get back and close some of these gaps and maybe get back to the weekly pivot, maybe touch these highs. I'm not quite sure, but this one looks like a decent prospect as well, with probably some kind of intraday dip back into 109.55. That would suggest to me that could be a buying opportunity. So yeah, it looks like there's a few options out there. I think certainly for intraday traders and traders that are interested in counter trend trading, and maybe, you know, you're going to have to look at some of the safer options here. And a safer option would be the dollar yen. Quick check on the FTSE. So FTSE's doing pretty well. So we're getting nicely into profit here now, and I think getting beyond this point here, so another 15 pips to the upside, and then we can start wondering whether it's going to be the gap or the weekly pivot. But I wouldn't want to go beyond that point. So all is good and well in the world with our trades at the minute. So that's at least something which is positive. Now, aside from that, I don't really have too much else to talk about. I've just brought in this this screen here again. So I don't know whether, if you guys have got something you want me to look at and discuss, and then bring it forward, because I don't have too much else here, and you're effectively looking at the screen that I'm looking at you guys now. This is the only way that I can read your messages. So if you want to post in a message and let me know if there's anything else you want to see, then let me know. If not, then I'll probably shut down, because I've lost Jeff, and it does mean that I'll probably be chasing my tail a little bit. As you know, I've covered the yen, I've covered gold, I have covered the FTSE, and just while you guys decide if there is anything, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to put anything in, but if you've got anything, let's look at it. The only one that I want to bring in, just because it fascinates me, is Bitcoin. I mean, it is astonishing what has happened to Bitcoin. So back on March the 28th, let's even call it the start of April, we were at 4,089. Now we're at 8,190. So this is doubled in price in a month. This is doubled in price in a month and a half, which is just crazy when you think as an asset class. If you were to buy a house or something like that, if it doubled in price in a month and a half, you'd be pretty happy with yourself. So yeah, anybody that's loaded in heavily on Bitcoin is going to be all the way to the bank right now. It would always concern me, Bitcoin, because there are people that have seen this move come right back down again, that are going to be fairly nervous here. Now, I don't know whether, because the question is, where do the sellers start kind of like kicking in? And maybe it's one of those currencies that people don't want to sell. You know, they're quite happy to see if it goes above and beyond. I don't know. But there seems to be a complete lack of resistance, and it does make it a pretty tenuous and dangerous currency pair, let's call it, or instrument. to play. And there's a gap here. It looks like if this ends up maybe sort of having some sort of spike by the end of the week, with some wick, then there might just be enough of a message to say that this is where the volatility is going to start kicking back in, because there's a lot of volume to the upside here, but no sellers are coming into play. So this may well continue to gap right up until 1260. Who knows? Which is, from the lows, that could be a triple a triple gain of your equity, which is just astonishing. So I think anybody that manages to luck out with Bitcoin and getting at some decent levels is certainly going to make a lot of money. But I would still suggest that it could be pretty volatile and fairly dangerous, because we could see some wild swings back to the downside if this is anything to go by. But look at this. When it picked up, it didn't come back for weeks and weeks on end. But when it did, bang. So that's really the last thing to talk about, just because I find it fascinating. I don't see Ethereum and Ripple having quite the same surge in price, but certainly Ethereum's starting to pick up, and XRP is starting to pick up as well. So maybe some people are going to get a bit happier that they could actually get out of their trades. It looks like it's broken through as well. So cryptocurrencies are the story again this month. Oh, cool, mate. The candles are the candle course is really to do with adding an extra technical piece of analysis to your toolbox. Nothing is in the absence of anything else. Nothing that I do is in the absence of anything else. Everything is interconnected. So it's just one of the moving parts that I use. So what I'm running is a kind of it's part of the silver program. I'm running the Master Traders course, which talks a bit about fundamentals. It talks a little bit about indicators, and it talks about trend lines, Fibonacci's, horizontal levels, pivots, and candles. So it's just an aspect. So tomorrow we'll be covering the candles, the pivots, and horizontal levels and trend lines, how to draw a trend line, where they're significant, why they're significant, and also Fibonacci as well. So we're going to be discussing that. We're going to be discussing how to then bring in the candles and how we trade with the candles, whether they are an indication of information, or whether they are actually a tradable point. Are you actually going to go into to the trade at that particular point, or are you just going to look at the candle as extra information to give you a bit of a clue? So yeah, it's just adding to the arsenal. As I say, nothing that I would do would be in isolation. I don't know what everybody's on. I don't know the program that people are on. So I don't know whether you, Krista, whether you're on silver or not. But anybody that's on silver is welcome to join in with that. So it's just a snapshot in the way that I approach the market. Okay, so oh yeah, absolutely. The more the better. Because what happens, or what I look for with the market is many different. It's a little bit like a car wouldn't run without all the different aspects, but it doesn't mean that there are certain aspects that if they broke down, you couldn't still run the car. But the greater the parts are oiled, the better. Sorry, that screen looks weird, isn't it? The greater the parts are oiled, the better the car will run. So it's just another part of the jigsaw that I have. When I'm looking at the market, I have many different aspects that play a part. And as I say, they don't all take the greatest importance every single trade, but to have them all in the arsenal helps, because sometimes you'll find that you'll take a trade and it's only after you've taken the trade that the different aspects of what needs to be seen then start to line up, so that they won't all line up at the same time. They won't all line up instantly. They might follow. You know, and more often than not, I'm trying to be in front, so I might not see what I need to see, but I'll be looking to see what I need to see within a few sessions to you know to make me a bit more comfortable. But certainly the bars are the quickest source of information. You know, they tell us a lot about you know, when we look inside the market, they tell us probably they give us the quickest snapshot. You know, they're going to react before a moving average. They're going to react before an RSI, and all those other bits and pieces. So I think it's really important to know candles. Not that you don't need to know you know, every single candle, but there are certain candles that have more importance than others. And there are certain candles that when I look at a trade, if specific things happen to a candle, then it would give me much more confidence to just enter on the open of the next candle, regardless of anything else that I saw. Right. So I hope that I think that's going to pretty much wrap it up for us now. We're only a few minutes away here. I'm liking the way that this weekly bar is currently looking on the FTSE. Certainly would suggest that if we do get that weekly bar closing near its high by Friday, which is pretty much going to be this area here, then that would suggest the upside is still probably quite prevalent. I'm not going to stay in the trade though. I think I'll come out and see if I can get a break and retest and enter again, rather than anything else. But you know, we're only on Tuesday, but that's looking a lot healthier, isn't it? Looking much better. Okay, guys, I'm going to push off unless there's anything else. Obviously, I will stay if you got anything else. Yeah, so that's a really good question, actually. So with the shorter term timeframes, what I would look for with a shorter term time frame is an indication of price action. So the longer term timeframes would give you, you know, a candle which may provide you information. Let's take this one for an example. So this market here has pushed to the upside and given us a level of resistance, and then we got this particular candle here. So then what it means is that when we look at the shorter term timeframes, we're not necessarily looking at candles. We might be then looking at some of the other aspects, but it has meant that the candle has given us the earliest indication that there's weakness in you know, it's somewhere around this price point. There is weakness, so we should be looking at our other indicators, you know, moving averages and whatever else that we like to look at on shorter term timeframes the week after. So the candle really would be the first point of call on a daily, and then on a daily, if it's on a daily, then you'll be looking at intraday in the next few sessions. So that's where it plays a part. You know, when I look at this one, for example, I did not wait for the daily bar to form, and if this daily bar does form positively, then I'm ahead. But if it does form positively, that's what I would have wanted to see. If it continued to the downside, then I know I'd be in a bit of trouble. So so even though it is it's not a lagging indicator by any stretch, but anybody that's looking at moving to the upside, if they see a candle like this, which is going to start looking like a belt hold or a train tracks reversal, or maybe even engulfing bar, then that means that on Wednesday we're still long. We're still looking for the longs. And you'd look at the intraday charts for the long. I wouldn't be then looking to put up a buy stop at the high of the candle and a sell at the a close at the bottom of it. And this is the thing. I don't know what strategy you guys are trading or what you're trading, Christo. But if you're trading the daily wave rider, then your first chart that you look for, that you should be looking at every single week, should be the monthly. You know, you shouldn't be starting with the daily chart. You should be starting with your monthly chart before anything else, because this monthly chart is going to give you a much greater understanding of what's going on month over month. And then the daily chart is going to give you a breakdown of what direction you want to look in for the month. So if you're looking at this particular bar here, that is a hammer. I don't know how well you know bars, but this is a hammer down here. And that hammer happened on the first of sorry, that was in February 2016. So when you're looking at March, you're really looking at buy signals on the daily then, you know, because your February hammer was really positive. So now when we look at our daily charts here, I don't know whether I've got so 2016. Let's just have a quick check now. If I'm looking at what I got daily wave rider, here we go. Daily wave rider. (2016). Right, so 2016. So you know, February would have passed, and then we'd be looking in March. So super trend is green, and then we're starting to see the the weekly pivot step to the upside. Now there's an entry there with a low, and look at that, actually the entry there would have worked out so far. Let's just go to the right hand side. So the entry is there. So that one would have made money. He's still looking for upside on that. Looks like an entry there that would have lost, but this one in March would have made money. That one in March would have made money. Now the significant aspect of that is that you're only really looking at the following period. In any period that the candle is provided on, you're only looking at the following period. So if you know, if you've seen bullish price action on the month, on 1 month, and you're looking at the next month to you know, to continue. So and when it comes down to shorter term time frames, it's not accuracy that it will give you. It's just detail. So to a degree, it gives you greater accuracy on entry, I suppose. That is fair, but you don't want to start there. I mean, I suppose that's the misnomer that I want to make sure that you're not getting confused with. You don't want to start on the shorter term timeframes because you believe that to be a chart that will give you the information that you need to make more money. Because what you need to do to start with is the longer term timeframes, and then you start coming back down. And then, yes, you know, the shorter term timeframes have a specific approach as well, which I will cover tomorrow. Right, well, we are actually at the end now anyway. So we've made it through the show, and I'll be back again tomorrow, same trade time, same trade channel with Jeff. We are going to have a few problems. No problem, mate. No, brilliant. Okay, that's great. I'm glad, because that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that you're continually, you know, making these connections, and things are becoming clearer. And the key to that actually is asking the right question. So, you know, well done for asking the right question, because that's really important. There's no way I can give you an answer that is going to help unless you ask the right questions. And that's a good thing about knowing what it is that you need to know. It's quite difficult sometimes to know that, but if you can know what you need to know, or I say something, or Jeff says something that makes you think about, oh, I need to know more about that, then always throw it in, because I'm more than happy to share it with you. So yeah, so same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow, and we will get on with some more information if we can. So any questions, then pop them in. But for right now, I will say, as Jeff does, bye for now.
Can you hear me, Ash?
Ah, hello, mate. You're back, and you're gone again. He's back and he's gone again.
Oh damn! I'm kind of listening to you on the YouTube channel, but you're about 10 seconds behind.
Oh,
so I've
yeah.
been listening to your conversation and Christo's questions and your answers, of course.
Yes. I mean, it was.
So I'm not going to wait 10 seconds till you actually respond to me. I totally get that. I am going to take a very small risk trade on Aussie US dollar. So I just wanted to point that out before I go. And hopefully you guys can see my screen. Looks like you can. I'm going to place a long above this bar here, but I'm going to give, pardon me, very strict rules here because it's quite important. Let me place the order. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I can't hear you, of course, now. So it's all a matter of guesswork. Half a lot will do on this. It's risky because we're trying to catch the falling knife here, guys, and it's not a wise thing. Well, it's not so much not a wise thing because I've got reason to do it, but to do it without reason is folly. And the reason I've got a double bottom sitting here. Potentially, I've got a higher low. I haven't got the higher low. If the higher low forms, we'll be taken into the trade, and that's kind of the premise of the trade. And we must take profit here before the high of the day. Doesn't matter then about the daily pivot because we're safe in the market, and we'll set a target up here. So the price of entry will be at 69.53. Now I'll have to add spreads to that. So my entry will be 69.55. Your entry, if you're trading with a trade manager, will be 69.53 because the trade manager will add the spreads. But if you're trading manually like I am, 69.55 will be the entry. Hope that all makes sense. And the stop loss will be at 69.43. So 69.43. And that is all we need to do. So it's a buy stop at that level. So we'll place the order. Stop loss here, entry here. Now we've got to take profit, guys, at this level, which is 69.58, say. So take profit there. Don't worry about the daily pivot now, because what we're going to do is at that profit level, we're going to move our stops. What's that going to be? Plus, what was the entry? 53. So 5 pips. Actually, it's only going to be 3 pips by the time we get in. It's not much profit, I know. But you must take profit there and take half off because this is a high risk trade. And then move your stops -3, depending on where you get in, guys. Actually, the exact price is what you need to take. So if you get 3 pips or 4 pips out of this, take profit at that level, half off, and move your stops 3 or 4 pips, whatever that gap is between entry and take profit 1. That's what you need to do. And then let the rest run until 69.80. 69.80 would be your profit level, which is right about there. Okay, so if you don't want to take a high risk trade, don't take this trade because it is high risk. But we're getting up very early to cut that back. All right. So there's not much profit available here at TP1. The profit's going to be here, right? If we get there. So we need to be safe at that point. And if we don't go to there, it doesn't matter. But if it does go to there, then we are going to make some money out of it. All right. So your risk is roughly 9-10 pips, I think. And your total reward would be up around 27. So knock that in half. There's about 13. You're about 1.4 to 1 when you take the first take profit into consideration. All right, now I will wrap it up by just saying watch the pound for upside today. If it gets back above this trade line or trend line, retest it, look for a long. Euro pound still looking for a short, but we've got to get back under here now. It's got a lot of work to do before we can trade this. It's got to get back inside the range, then give a lower high. Long way away. Aussie we know about. Euro, I'm not interested in the euro for some reason. Euro, Aussie, I was interested in that. Why? No, I wasn't, because I was just going to mention that the short that we were looking for the beginning of the day is now gone, well gone. And of course, I'm keeping my eye on Aussie Q. We've got a bullish engulfing bar. The significant higher low is what I'm looking for. That doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon, but look for it over here somewhere. All right, that is me. Ash, sorry I couldn't. Don't tell me you've lost me again. No, I don't think you have. Sorry I couldn't participate in the last 20 minutes or so. We'll do it all again, as you say, tomorrow. And in the meantime, from me, it's bye-bye for now.
See you later, guys. See you later, Jeff.